Hello everyone, Jeff here for Respawn Studios, back with episode 2 of my Be Better at Hearthstone series. So in the first one we looked at how to put together a deck, in that case for a mage, and then how to use that in ranked play. So here we are going to go into the arena, which again you could either use an actual credit or debit card, pay $2, or you use 150 of the earned in-game gold. So first you choose a hero. I like Shaman. Mage is obviously my favorite character, but in the arena you get choices of 3 cards. You choose one and the other 2 go away over and over again. And Mage, unfortunately, you just normally do not get that many good cards. And Shaman has so many good cards for the Shaman that are low cost that I think it's a better choice. So I go with Shaman. So it might seem kind of random while I'm picking these cards. So you don't just want to pick cards that you like. You want to also, as I mentioned in my first video, pick cards that you think will go well together. So the good thing about Arena as well is you could see right there under the 3 cards the mana curve. How many, like what cards cost what. So if you have a lot of low cost, obviously those will fill up. There isn't really a good way to have all low cost or all high cost cards. It really comes down again to preference, playstyle, what are you going for. You also of course have to consider your hero power. For the Shaman, they are able to summon a totem, and there are several different kinds of totems, spell damage. So you might not need as many great minions, especially early in the game. You might want to get your totems out so you could do more spell damage, you could heal. A lot of good abilities. Have a taunt, slow down your opponent a little bit. So you might want to favor spells when you're drafting for a Shaman, or kind of late or mid game minions that cost 4 or more, because in your early turns you probably want to use spells to control the board and summon totems, so you can get to like the 4th or 5th turn without really any danger. So then you could start playing some late game. But if you have watched any of my other Hearthstone videos, I'm not about late game. I try and keep the pressure on my opponent, so I'm favoring lower mana cost cards. The other good thing with Arena, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the first video, is you can have more than 2 of the same card, where in Constructed for play mode you cannot have more than 2 of the same card. I think the limit might be 3, but for some reason I want to say I've only done Arena like 6 times, 5 or 6 times, so I'm not even 100% sure, but I don't think you can have more than 3. Bloodlust is a great card, but you might never get to it. But the good thing with Shaman, that's why it's only a Shaman card, is you'll probably have totems. So like all of your O2s are suddenly 3/2s and they can attack that turn. So if you have like 5 minions and you give them all +3 attack, that's 15 attack on top of what they already have. So if you save that for a while and use it at a right moment, it could be a lethal on like the 5th or 6th turn, depending if you have some low cost minions out there. So it's crazy. Alright, so unfortunately I know I kind of went through the drafting process quickly. Again, I'm not an expert in the arena. It really is pick your poison. It's totally randomized. They show you some good cards sometimes. Sometimes you have a choice of legendaries. Sometimes you just get a lot of crap. So it is kind of luck based. Don't expect to get like the best decks in the world. Try and just choose a hero. If it's especially if it's one of the first times you're going into Arena, you're going to want to favor a hero that you know how to play. You don't want to kind of experiment in Arena. That's not really the time to do it. You want to know the playstyle you like first off, and then second, the hero. So of the 3 heroes, can you pick one that matches your playstyle, and then try and draft toward how you want to play. If that isn't what is happening based on the cards they're giving you, you might have to adapt it. Think, okay, instead of playing aggressive, I might have to be more control, or I'll have to play for mid game. I'll try and just cancel minions to get to some big cards at the end. Say you get like the Ragnaros legendary card as a choice, which does 8 damage. So again, what a bizarre opening hand, right? 2 of the same spell and 2 of the same minion. But I kind of like that, so I decided to keep it. So I'm playing a Paladin. Of course, their abilities, they could summon a 1/1, They have good spells that say do 2 damage to all enemies. They have do 3 damage, draw a card. They have give a minion plus 4/4, so even if they summon a 1/1, it could be a 5/5 pretty quickly. So they have some really good abilities. They have changed an enemy minion's attack to 1. So I know from playing this game for a few weeks now, all of those different things. So try and consider, okay, what can your opponent possibly have? Yes, it is Arena. They probably weren't able to get all of those good spells, but you still have to consider it. You don't want to play defensive per se, but like say you're facing a mage, you might want to consider, they might be waiting for their 7th turn to be able to play a flame strike. So you want to try and do damage early. But again, it's so much about psychology. You might consider that they have certain cards. It is really luck with Arena, so it is kind of hard trying to find the balance of considering, might they have this, or should I just stick to the game plan I want to do? So here I could have played the Voodoo, but what's the point? It's not going to heal anything, so that ability is useless. And he also has a 1/1, so he could have made a good trade taking out my 2/1. So I'm going to hold on to that. Alright, so he has 2 1/1s, no real big deal. He might, though, of course, have that plus 4/4 ability. Alright, we're still early in the game. There's nothing really going on. We just want to start to develop our board. So here, a ghoul. This is awesome because if his 2 1/1s both attack it, they'll both die. So yeah, I'll lose health, but I'll also gain attack. And now here, because he only costs 1 and I have taken some damage, I figure, what the hell? Let's throw him down there. And the other reason I throw him down is, of course, because the ghoul. So if one of his 1/1s still makes a good trade to take out my 2/1, my ghoul will gain attack. Now, unfortunately, he does that and cancels it out. But it forces him also, though, to have used one of his spells early on. And now the board's clear. Neither of us are down damage. It's my turn. So it was still a good trade, a good situation for me. Now, I could have played like an aggressive spell, like the lightning, to do 3 damage. But why? I mean, there's no point. You should probably save that. It only costs 1. You're able to quickly take out a minion, control the board. So I threw down 2 minions of my own. Again, maybe put him on the defensive, let him know. One of them had charge, so I could do attack. So again, force your opponent to maybe play out of their style. Try and stick to what you want to do. Of course, it's going to be based on your cards. There's always the element of luck. What are you drawing? Can you actually get what you want to do? Alright, so now I'm loading up my board. I was able to play 2 more minions and I had 2 more mana, so I summoned a totem. Now, I could have stayed aggressive and attacked again, but I was able to take out an enemy minion and survive, and that guy's protected from dying behind a guy with taunt. So that was a really good trade for me. All of my minions are still alive, and I was able to take out one of his. Alright, this is another good Paladin card. It's a 1/5, but you see every time they summon a minion, so say he uses his ability, gets a 1/1, it becomes a 2/2, and the durability of the weapon goes to a 1/4. Yes, it can also attack, but why would you do that? It's way more valuable to use for when you summon your minions, and they each get plus 1/1, until, of course, the weapon breaks. So the problem right now is he has a decent sized minion out there with Divine Shield. But I have a spell which could do a good amount of damage to it. I have the totem out there, so it does 4 damage. So if I'm able to get rid of the Divine Shield, I could kill it. And there we go. Alright, so I have a weapon I'm able to play, but I might want to first eliminate him with a spell. I have this spell which does damage to 2 different enemies. And then I might be able to trade some minions. So they're all different plays you might want to make. Again, I'm not a genius. I'm not a legendary level player. I'm just telling you what I'm considering, what I'm thinking in this matchup, this situation right now. Alright, so he had the secret which brought an enemy back with 1 health. So now it also made sense to play the ability to, or the spell that I had to do damage to multiple enemies. So I now officially eliminate that minion that had 5 attack, and I was then able to trade another minion to get rid of his guy that gives him more spell damage. So I still have 5 minions. He has nothing. So that was a really, really good trade-off. And you see I have full health. I'm whittling him down. Alright, interesting play. I only have 1 other card, so there wasn't much more I could buff with him. Yes, it was an overload card, so he would have gotten another +1/1. But that, I mean, there isn't really a better situation, I guess, of course, because if he attacked a golem, he would have taken damage, and the golem would have come back as a 2/1 anyway. Why would he buff it and then attack a totem? That's an 0-2. So I guess it was a good decision, but you see I'm in firm control of this opening game here in Arena. So the Azure Drake is a really good choice to have in Shaman decks because, yes, it's a 4/4. You also are able to draw a card, which is always good for Shamans because they have lots of low-cost cards. And you have spell damage +1. And for all of the low-cost spells the Shaman has, it's awesome. So it's a really good card. Yeah, it costs 5, so you'll have to wait a few turns to get there, but because you could summon totems and you could throw in some low-cost minions, it's a good staple to have in many Shaman decks. Alright, so I have the advantage. He did just play a really good minion, so maybe I just want to keep the pressure up, as I'm doing here. Just keep attacking, make him really freak out. I have looked at a bunch of different decks and styles on Hearthstone because after getting my butt kicked in ranked play for a while, I'm like, alright, I have to figure out how other people play. Because just playing how I want to play isn't working. Other people already have these established styles, so let me learn the game. One of the decks I've seen is a Paladin that uses that card, the 7/5 with Stealth. And the Paladin also has a spell that's 5, and it doubles the attack of a minion. So they could keep it Stealth, and they could double its attack, say, twice if they have 10 mana. So it becomes a, 7... so you double it to 14, then you double it to 28. So you can do 28 damage with 1 attack. Yeah, it's a very risky play because the card itself is a 7. So it's a late game strategy. Maybe you build toward it by using taunt cards. But there are some crazy strategies out there. So I want to keep the pressure up. That's why I'm attacking. And he's stealth anyway. There's no way I could attack it. But I'm just trying to eliminate him quickly before he can make any of those plays. And there we go. He didn't even get to hit me. So, a really good first game here in the arena. And I'm going to also say, in the arena, the few times I did it were also early times was when I was new to the game. I haven't really done it in a while. I never had more than 2 wins before in a single arena. So, as I recorded this yesterday, so I already know how I did. I'm just now analyzing it and doing my commentary. I was able to get 5 wins. How the arena works, you go for as many wins as you can. If you get 12 wins in a row, that is called a perfect run. Then it ends and you get a lot of good prizes. Generally gold cards, a bunch more gold back, so you can go right back in, and a pack of cards. Every win you get better and better prizes. The worst you could do, if you go 0-3, you still get a pack of cards and a little bit of dust. So it's like having 150 gold in prizes anyway. So that's pretty cool. You can also choose to retire for some reason. If you really hate your deck and you've lost your first 2, you can just click retire. And you give whatever prize you are on at that point. But most people want to play it out. Alright, so Rogue. I don't know if you've watched all of my videos, but I've touched on the Miracle Rogue style before. That's not really possible in Arena by any stretch, because you get the random cards. So you can't really build toward that style. So I'm not really worried about that. But they do have a lot of those good abilities. The combo do 2 damage or 4 damage. They, of course, have their ability the weapon. There's the 1-cost card. That gives the weapon +2 attack, so the 1/2 becomes a 3/2. So that's good to clear the board of your opponent early in the game. So what other good strategies for Rogue are there? There are the spells that, like that, Backstab, do 2 damage to an undamaged minion. They have, I think it's also no cost, or no, it costs 1, to give all of your minions stealth until the next turn, so they can't be attacked unless you have a spell that hits everything. So they have a lot of good abilities. So those are all of the things I'm considering in this matchup. I first think about, what can my opponent do? And do I have to try and counter that in my early game? Or can I still play to my style, which is just establishing the board, keeping it pretty clear, trying to build up my totems, build up minions, so I can get to a really good combo. Say, get a Bloodlust and give them all 3 attack more that turn. So there's so much to consider. Yeah, it's a very fast-paced, maybe simple-seeming game, but there's so much strategy. Not just because of the combinations of cards are kind of endless. You'll probably run into the same 4 decks 100 times. Out of 100 matches, you'll probably see the same few decks from Hearthstone.com that a lot of people use in ranked play. But Arena, of course, is different. You have randomized cards, but you still have to consider, what do I know about my opponent's cards? What are the standard strategies that they like to use based around their cards? So rogues generally are aggressive because they have a lot of combination damage, or they have that minion that they played, the 2/2. If you just play it by itself, it's a 2/2. If you had played a card earlier in that turn, it's a 2/2, and it also summons a 2/1. So they have lots of good combination attacks. So what I'm trying to say is, this series, while I'm trying to give you tips, again, I'm not one of the greatest players in the world, but I think I'm decent enough. But I'm trying to let you know of how to think, why to think in these situations. And there's just so much to consider. I mean, all these videos could be 3 hours dissecting one game that's 8 minutes long. So I'm just trying to hit on some major points, and I hope you find that helpful. But if you think it would be more helpful for me to talk about something else, just focus on the game card by card, what's going on, instead of also talking about overall strategies, by all means, let me know in the comments. Alright, but here we go. The card that I just drew is good sounding. It only costs 5, and it's a 7/8 with taunt, so it's pretty intimidating. But the rogue, it has the crazy spell, Assassinate, which costs 5 as well. And you choose which enemy you want to kill, even if it has taunt, even if it has divine shield, even if it has a combination of all of those, you could just instantly kill it. It's crazy. So playing that in a situation still kind of early in the game is not good. Yes, it only costs 5, but it also restricts what I can do next turn because of overload, which you see the locks over my mana crystals. That means I can't use them that turn. Alright, so he had used that spell I had mentioned to give all of his minions stealth, so I can't do anything about them. I don't have any spells right now. And I keep getting this 1/1 totem, which to me is the worst one. I like getting the taunt one to slow down my opponent, or the spell damage one, because generally they'll want to attack that, because again, the Shaman has a lot of good spells that do damage, so they want to restrict what you could do with that. The other really good totem is the one I have right there, the health one. At the end of your turn, any damaged minion you have gets 1 health back, so that's very helpful. Alright, so I'm not in really good shape right now. Yeah, I could play my 3, that's a 2/4. I could play the 1 that has taunt. Hex is a great card, but I mean, he doesn't really have any great minions. It's still kind of a waste to use that. Yes, he has a bunch of minions, so it's not really doing me any favors by not taking it out. So in that situation, that's the worst thing that could have happened. His damage hit my guy that had only 2 health, so it immediately took that out, and I got nothing for it. And his weapon is buffed right now, so it does more damage. I have an ogre, which is a great minion, but again, we're not in good shape here. We have to really slow this game down, get it back under our control, trying to hopefully draw a spell to eliminate some minions, get a totem with taunt down, draw a really good card, because he's just keeping the pressure up. Yeah, he has these little 1/1, 2/1s, but it's enough. Alright, so why do I decide to use that? Because my health is really getting down there, and that card, I don't have a way of eliminating it right now. So it would do 2 damage immediately to my ogre. And maybe he drew another combo, so he was able to do 2 or 4 damage to it. So a lot of different things could have gone wrong there. Alright, so we're in really bad shape here. Alright, so we want to put that down instead of the Panther, of course, because we could draw another card, but in this situation, it's actually not a helpful card at all. We don't even get the taunt minion, or the taunt totem. So the only play here, of course, because it has, unfortunately, taunt because of our spell, was to attack that. So we have no way to win this game anymore. So I concede. Alright, so we're 1-1. We got him down, but unfortunately we just weren't drawing any spells. We were just getting minions, and there wasn't really anything we could do to control the board, get those out of the way. He was just able to keep whittling down our health there. The other really cool thing about Arena is it scales your opponent. So say you're 0-1, you're probably going to face someone else that had just lost their first game. So that was hopefully an easier win. If you're 9-0, going for a perfect 12-0 run, you're going to face other people that are on really good winning streaks. So it's well done that way. Alright, so we're facing another rogue. So I probably don't want the 5-cost guy with taunt, but I actually decided to keep it here. So we have a 5 and a 6 in our opening hand, which isn't terrible. Again, for a Shaman, they could throw out totems in the meantime, and I have a spell and my other low cost minion there. Alright, that's a pretty good draw to start. I could have used coin to get a totem, but what's the point if I wait till my second turn to use the coin? I could throw down one of my 3-cost minions, which is more efficient, and I know what I'm getting as opposed to the random totem. Alright, and you'll definitely notice that this rogue plays way differently because he drew way different cards, whether luck or his choice. So there aren't many decisions to make on these early turns. I don't know why he's waiting so long. Alright, so we have both, or at least, I don't know if I have 3, but 2 of our 1-cost lightning spells that do 3 damage. So that's a pretty good hand we have right now. And the wolf, which gives minions on either side an additional attack. Alright, now that card is kind of interesting for a rogue because they have a lot of 0 or 1-cost spells. So we probably want to get rid of that. So that's what we do. Because he could have dropped like a lot of 0-cost things or 1-cost things there and filled up his board with 1/1s. So we don't want that to happen. So I use both my spells. Yes, I'm now restricted what I do next turn, but I have a couple big things in my hand that I couldn't have played anyway, and a 1-cost guy with taunt. So it was still a good trade-off. I kept all of my minions, and I got rid of his that had a pretty decent ability. Alright, interesting situation there. He does 1 damage to the wolf. He's trying to get that down so my guys lose an additional attack, but I was able to get down the guy with taunt. And in a great stroke of a little bit of luck there, I got the totem that gives me a health back. So even if he had the Fan of Knives, which is a rogue spell that does 1 damage to all enemies, he wouldn't have been able to kill it. Same with Shiv, do 1 damage, draw a card. Now, the card I just drew, the 2 cost minion, that's a 4/5. It can't attack. Now, I had picked that fairly early on in the drafting process, so I was hoping I would get one of the cards that give adjacent minions taunts, or I was able to silence it in some way, but I didn't. So that card is totally useless. Yeah, I could play it as like a kind of psychological thing. They might worry, oh god, he's going to have taunt, so he might slightly change his plays, but unfortunately it's pretty much useless. Alright, so we still have a good looking board, but they have a bunch of cards. There are different things they could work out. Alright, so that was a pretty good play, because that, again, minion's ability is anytime any other minion dies, it gains an additional attack. And with all of my other weak guys, they would start dying soon, so could have gotten buffed up pretty good. But here we go, they're healed, and I have an ogre out there. So we're in a really good shape right now, as opposed to last game, when we got to the mid to late game where I had nothing. Alright, so that's pretty devastating. That is a really good combo that a lot of rogues use. There's a spell that destroys your weapon and does its, I think, durability, I want to say, instead of its attack to all enemies. So it could wipe out minions, especially if you've buffed the weapon. It's pretty brutal. It's a good late game clearing process. Alright, so in this situation, I had no other choice in my hand. Yeah, I could have just played a totem end of my turn, but I'm really ahead now in the game. So I decided to play the 7/8 with taunt. Hope he doesn't have assassinate, or he decides to use it on that, and it's not that bad of a trade-off, because we are pretty ahead right now in this game health-wise and board-wise. So since he wasn't able to take out my 7/8, I could take out his 1/7 next turn with that anyway. Or I could even use my one of my 2 hexes, you see I still have down there, to turn an enemy into an 0/1. So I was lucky enough to get a couple of these in this deck. Alright, so I decided to play that card just to get it down there. But there we go. I was able to win that turn. So nice comeback game there. We're now 2-1 in this arena run. And the key changes every time to reflect. And you see the mana curve down there. I have lots of 1s, 2s, 3s, and not much else, which a lot of people think is bad, because if a lot of your early game minions are eliminated, you don't have anything left for mid or late game. But to me, I always, again, like that style. I like being aggressive, putting your opponent on their heels. Maybe they're trying to wait for mid or late game, and you totally force them to change what they want to do. Or you could just save a lot of them in your hand. If it doesn't make sense to use early cost spells, or you want to wait to make a really big combo to potentially make a lethal attack in your like 5th or 6th turn, something like that, fine, hold on to your cards. Don't feel you need to play them just because it'll maximize like the mana crystal use each turn. You don't always have to worry about that. So I've mentioned the analogy before, but it really is like poker. You consider, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want my opponent to think I'm doing? What do I think my opponent's going to do? So there's a lot to consider. You don't want to get too bogged down. Not everyone's going to have every card in every situation. You can't always play worried about what can happen. You want to try and keep your foot down on the pedal, controlling the game. Alright, so there I played the sword to take out the wolf, because my 1/2 with taunt couldn't, and the wolf could have taken that out. So I wanted to keep him alive. Alright, so you see I have 3 2s, which is good. I have the totem, which is an 0/3, but it gives the minions on either side 2 additional attack. So even if they're 0/2 totems, they're 2 2s. So that's pretty awesome. Alright. That's not bad, because he's using a lot of his early turn mana to just do that, eliminate my 1/2 with taunt. So by all means, that's fine. So you see we have a few mana crystals. We could do a couple different things. We could play a 2-cost minion on either side of the totem. Mages also don't have weapons, so we don't have to worry about holding on to the ooze here. So here we go. Put him on one side and put him on the other. So he has to, with minions, go into that taunt guy first. And the good clearance spells for the mage, of course, because that's my most played thing, I know, are the 6 cost Blizzard or the 7 cost Flame Strike. There is the 2 cost do 1 damage to all enemies. He might play like the 2/2 that gives spell damage +1 and use it to do 2 damage to everything, but not likely. Alright, so we're in really good shape here. But I just drew the useless card. I wish there was a way you could change that, but that's not Arena. So playing this mage also kind of shows you the weaknesses of using mage in the arena. You might be able to get like 3 flame strikes, but they all cost 7, so if you get to that point and you have to use all of them, that takes up a lot of your turn anyway. Their Frostbolt to do 3 damage and freeze an enemy are awesome, but again, it's really luck of the draw. Sometimes you can get like a couple legendaries in one deck, or a couple really good spells. Sometimes you might get a lot of crap minions, and you just have to pick the least bad of the 3. Alright, so here is a good play for him, do Blizzard. But I also still have 3 minions alive. Yes, they are frozen, but it could have been worse. And you see I'm way ahead in health again. And there we go. I'm just able to simply use my 1 cost spell. So that's another reason to sit on those. Don't feel you have to use them to eliminate every early game minion. It's okay to be behind in health early in the game. If you want to save those up for when you have a spell damage +1 card. So instead of doing 6 damage, you could do 8 damage with 2 of those 1 cost spells. And maybe take out a big minion, maybe do a lot of damage to the enemy, maybe do a lethal even early in the game. So a lot of different combinations. Don't feel you have to use everything early in the game just because that's a low cost. I think that's a trap that a lot of new players fall into. I know I did my first week. I was like, oh, I can play this card, let's play it. I didn't really think too much of strategy because I didn't know too much about the game yet. I have played a lot of Magic the Gathering, Pokemon card game, Yu-Gi-Oh! But this is different, and I haven't played them for a few years, so. Alright, so not the best opening hand, but. Alright, so now, strategy of facing a Druid. They have a lot of good cards for mid-game. So, guys that cost 4 or 5 that could either have charge or taunts. They have the spell that gives a friendly minion +2/2 and taunt. They have the really good, so Fork Lightning there. Maybe it's not the best thing, but only costs 1, gets rid of both his minions. Can't really do what he wants to do. I think it was an okay trade. Alright, but back to the Druid. Of course, their ability gives them, they could do 1 attack and have 1 armor. They have the 8/8 Treant, but their spells are really good. Swipe, do 4 damage to 1 damage to all other enemies. You could use it on the hero or a minion. They have do 5 damage to anything you choose and draw a card that costs 6. They have Starfall, which I think costs 5, and you could choose to do 5 damage to 1 minion or 2 damage to all enemy minions. So they have some good stuff, but it is mid-game, so hitting them early is probably the best idea. Alright, so he was trying to whittle down my 0-4 with taunt, but here I was able to give it a few more health, so he'd have to use his hero ability and attack it to get rid of it. So again, limiting his choices of what he can do in his early hands. So that's what I've talked about a couple times now, forcing your opponent to maybe play differently than they wanted to in their early hand. So there he wasn't able to take it out because he decided to play a minion instead. Alright, so I'm going to use my other Fork Lightning. There I was fortunate where it was able to kill the one guy, and I was able to eliminate the other, and from the minions dying, I really got to buff my flesh-eating, what is it, ghoul? So it really worked out in my favor. We're on a good streak here. Alright, so we could play our weapon, we could use the ghoul. Not any real ideal choices here. We're gonna have to sacrifice something. I think that is one of the more undervalued things for newer players. Using your hero to eliminate minions by giving it an attack. So the Shaman even has this really awesome ability. I don't think I have any of it in this arena deck. It's a 1-cost spell, and it gives anything +3 attack that turn, even your hero. So yes, it maybe looks bad. Your health isn't white anymore. You don't have full health, but you attack someone, you eliminate minions to save your own. So it's a good trade-off. Alright, so I was considering using the spell where if a friendly minion dies, it's returned to the battlefield, but I decided this was a better trade-off. Get a bigger minion out there, do some damage to him, make a trade for the ghoul to eliminate his guy with taunt. And you see we have a decent board and a weapon. He has nothing right now, so we're in great shape. Alright, so he uses one of his spells, eliminates my guy, draws a card. Alright, so there's one of the cards I was talking about. It could either be a 4/4 with charge, but he decides to do the other form, a 4/6 with taunt. Alright, so Bloodlust. Give all of my guys +3 damage, and that includes your hero. Alright, so here we go. Now, you might have seen why wasn't that a waste? You made your 6/7 ogre, which could have taken that guy out anyway, a 9/7. But no, I would have had to use some combination of my other guys, all of whom would have died, to take out that one guy. So there I was able to eliminate the guy and do a lot of damage there, 9 damage to my opponent. So it was a good trade-off. And all of my guys are still alive. Alright, here's one of his really good cards. He can make it a 5/10 with taunt, which he does. Alright, but here I decide to use this on my 6/7 ogre, so when he dies he comes back to life. So now I'm totally fine with him dying. Now he's back with full health. They don't come back in the exact form they were, which is cool. And I have a couple guys with taunt, so even if he attacks he has to go through them first, unless he has a spell. And he does. So that's the one I was talking about. Do 5 damage to one guy or 2 damage to all. And he strangely decides to do 5 damage to my ogre, which doesn't kill it. So I thought he would have been able to do another ability which killed him, but he didn't. He decided to buff up the guy, give him some more health, but that's fine. Could do some trading here, get rid of it, and still be able to attack. And we still have now 6 minions out there to his none. So we're in amazing shape. And I think that's one of the other great things about Shaman. It just looks kind of intimidating having all of those guys out there. Yeah, a lot of them are totems, they're O2s or 1/1s. They look kind of maybe not great when you really examine it, but just the sheer number of guys. And their abilities, giving a spell damage, being able to heal, those are good. So it makes sense to take them out, want to take them out. And they kind of are a threat to attack because of those cards. The Bloodlust, give all of your guys +3 attack that turn. Those 1-cost things, give them 3 attack that turn. That totem that gives +2 attack to the things on either side of it. So there's lots of things that could make them even better than they already are. So like the hunter style deck you might run into a lot in ranked play. The combos are all reliant on hunter only cards building on each other. The Shaman deck is awesome no matter what, because it is like made around combos. All of their cards can really go together to make really devastating combos. Alright, so we are up to 4 wins. We only have 1 loss. But I think, unfortunately, this will be our 2nd loss coming up here. And both my losses probably come down to my inexperience, not making the best choices. I probably could have won both my first 2 losses, those games, if I drew better opening hands, if I was a smarter player, but I'll walk you through it, walk you through how I was thinking. Alright, so a mage, again, of course, being a mage, they have good spell cards. They might be going for aggressive style. If you visit hearthstone.com at all, you might notice that a lot of the mage decks right now are favoring the ice spells. Use Frostbolt, which does 3 damage, freeze an enemy. Then they could use, so on their 4th turn, they could use Frostbolt, which does 3 damage, freeze an enemy. And then you use both of your 1-cost ice lances, which if an enemy's already frozen, it does 4 damage. So that's 11 damage, and you're frozen. That's crazy. So they use that combo to great effect. But again, in Arena, you probably don't have to worry about traditional styles. Alright, so he has a couple early game minions out there. If I don't eliminate one, at least, he's able to do 5 damage on the next turn. So I don't want that to happen, so I use my spell, which will definitely kill both of them. Yes, it restricts me for next turn, but it's a really good trade-off. Gets rid of both his guys, and I was able to play a minion, do a little attack of my own. He can use his 1-attack hero ability to get rid of it, but again, it also kind of helps me. It restricts what he can do on his early turns if he chooses to use the 2 mana crystals that way. Alright, so I have a lot of really good cards right now. Early game stuff, but nothing I definitely need to use. Why would I waste doing 3 damage to a leper gnome, which only has 1 health, and it's going to hurt me anyway when it dies. So I'm going to summon a totem. Alright, so 1/1. He could Pyroblast it away, but if he doesn't, I'm able to take out the gnome. Maybe the gnome will attack it for some reason. Oh, alright, so he has the spell to do 1 damage, and that was a really, really good distribution for him. The best would, of course, been if it did 2 damage to the totem, got rid of it, and 1 damage to my guy. Because now if he doesn't kill the totem, it will heal itself anyway. So he decides to attack it, get it out of the way, which isn't a bad play, of course. Alright, so now we are not restricted about what we could do this turn, so we have a lot of choices. I think the best is protecting a guy that's a 4/4 and spell damage. He might have spells to get rid of him, but hopefully not. You can't, again, always think your opponent has things to immediately get rid of what you have, especially in Arena. In these pauses, I'm looking over at my TV. The Flyers are playing the Rangers. I'm a big Philadelphia sports fan, being from here. We're up 2-1 right now, 2 minutes left. But anyway, alright, so he was able to eliminate the taunt guy, and I'm frozen and gonna die next turn. And he has a secret. So the mage secrets, what do they have? When you attack them, they get 8 armor. There's that. When you attack them, that enemy will die. When you summon, there we go. When you summon an enemy, they will summon a copy of it. Alright, so why do I do that play there? He's about to eliminate my guy that gives spell damage +1, so I want to maximize damage and keep kind of the pressure on by doing damage to him. Alright, so kind of interesting play there. I mean, it is a good play. I only have 2 cards in my hand. Alright, so not the best kind of play because a mage also has the polymorph, turn anything, even again with taunt or divine shield, into a 1/1. So it makes it useless and doesn't even have taunt. So it's a really great card. But I don't really have any other options. There was no point in playing Bloodlust, or couldn't even play the other card because it has to hit 2 enemies. Alright, so he's doing 5 damage to it. Not bad, a trade-off. Alright, so my board's clear. I only have access to 5 mana crystals, but I could play a pretty good minion for that, so it's alright. But again, I kind of already spoiled that I think, lose this match. He has 6 cards, I have 2, and neither of them really help me. And you see, he has all of his perfect things to counter the very few moves I can make right now. So this is the real disadvantage of having a low mana curve, because you'll probably tend to play a lot of your cards early in the game, especially if you're an aggressive kind of player like I am. So you might get to these later turns and you like have 1 card every turn that you draw, so you really don't have any choices. So you see now I'm just on dire straits. He has a really good minion out there. I've already used my Hex. Alright, so not much to say. I mean, I probably should have conceded at this point. I'm kind of drawing dead. I don't really have any miracle cards that could have fixed the game, so you might think better of sticking this out. So these are really the only plays I can make. Sorry. Been sick since last Monday and still have a couple little symptoms. So if by some miracle he didn't attack or do that, I could have used Bloodlust, but nope. That's my one remaining hope. So you see the real downfall of the deck style put together, the low mana curve. I just used so much early on and wasn't able to win early, so I just kind of screwed myself. And maybe it's not even as much my fault as, I mean, some of it is. Of course, take that blame. But every hero has like a weak matchup. Not even necessarily like hero to hero, but play styles that like just don't work well. So if you have like a late game deck and you're facing an aggro deck, oh god, that's probably not good. So if you're doing like a control priest against a hunter, who could build toward a combo in a couple turns that could beat you, it's not really much you could do. This wasn't, of course, as much that situation, but I'm just pointing that out. Don't feel bad if you lose a couple in a row to styles that you know you can't really do well against. I take every loss as the end of the world, but that's just me. That's how I've always been. Very competitive. I don't like to lose. So you know it's never a good sign when your opponent says well played, because they know the game's over. And then of course you had to threaten me. Alright, so he has the ultimate spell, do 10 damage, 10 cost. Alright, so there we go. We're still in good shape though. It's not like the end of the world. We're 4-2, which is still the best I had ever done in Arena, so I was still pretty happy. But again, never happy with a loss, but it could be way worse. Alright, so we have one more win and then one more loss. Alright, so we're facing a hunter. Every game you're not facing the minion overload warlock in ranked play, you'll be facing a hunter. Those are like the two decks that everyone rank 16 or at least 15 and higher use. So I have a lot of experience with playing hunters. But again, being Arena, it's going to be a little different. Alright, so again I have 2 1-cost spells that do 3 damage. So that's good to control his minions. No reason to just use them on the opponent. They have full health. It doesn't put them in any dire strait. Playing the wolf here is questionable. You could quickly eliminate it. But it also might be a good idea in some situations, say, because it does have that good ability, giving your guys on either side more attacks. They might try and focus, get rid of it. So in this situation, they play a trap, which I assume is the explosive trap. So before I play anything else, I attack. Yeah, I sacrifice that guy, but now it's out of the way, and I could play another minion. Alright, so he has a 2-3 and a 1-1. So it's probably a good time to use one of these spells. And I got a guy with taunt, so there's no need to attack the 1-1 right now. I could do a little damage to him. Alright. So that's unfortunate, but we still have our other 1-cost spell that does 3 damage, so we could take out either of those guys. And if we really wanted to, we could also use Hex, but so you see, that's what I decided to do. I decided to keep my golem at full health. Up, am I? See, this is yesterday. I don't even quite remember what I did. Okay. So, by doing it that order, I was able to take out the one guy who had taunt. I was able to attack and then turn the 4-3 into an 0-1 with taunt. So, I got rid of the other guy, attacked him, and made the other guy useless. So, it was good. So you see again down in my mana crystals, I'll be restricted 1 next turn, but I'll get a 5th. So I could play the Azure Drake. Or if I draw, say, a 2 or 3, I could play that and a totem. So this is what I mean by, I don't like people that take forever to take their turn. I'm thinking about this. I'm not so much worried about what my opponent's doing right now. I'm worried about, okay, that's the play I want to make. And then when it becomes my turn, I just quickly think, should I change that based on what they did? Alright, so the Yeti is always a good card to have out there. It's a 4-5. I have another Hex though, if I really wanted to use it. I also have the Totem, which I could play in between my guys, give them +2 attack each. Alright, now we're into a kind of scary situation. He has 4 decent enough minions out there, but he decides to kind of sacrifice them. which isn't a bad play. It's controlling the board, trying to keep it clear, give him the advantage by having more guys. Alright, so I have a lot of different options. I probably want to get rid of this 4-1 with Divine Shield, so what's the best to do that? Just turn it. Now I could use my spell to do 2 damage, which would definitely kill these other 2 guys. So why did I do it that way? To maximize that I would definitely take out all 3. I made the 4-1 with Divine Shield into a meaningless threat, and then I attacked it to eliminate it. And then I left the other 2 guys, which only had 1 and 2 health each, to die to my spell that does 2 damage to 2 different enemies. So I kind of did his strategy back at him, controlling the board, eliminating the enemy minions. Alright, so I'm worried it's going to be another explosive trap, so I attack with my 1-1, and it is. So it's a good thing I didn't play anything else, so they didn't take damage. There are several different hunter traps. They're all very frustrating. That's the most common one, explosive trap. Do 2 damage to all enemies before they attack or while they're attacking, so they don't even get to hit it. There is freezing trap, which is incredibly frustrating. When you attack, that enemy doesn't attack and it's returned to your hand, and it costs 2 more to play again. There's also misdirection, where instead of attacking the enemy minion or hero you were trying to, you're going to attack another random guy, whether it's your own minion, your own hero, or another enemy minion. Alright, so I could have, of course, eliminated that enemy, but that's not the best use of that attack power, so I attack him directly. And I know he's used both of his traps that do damage to all of my guys, so I'm not in any real threat to lose many minions right now. There aren't any hunter spells that hit everyone, so there's a brutal spell that does 5 damage to one guy and 2 damage to the 2 enemies next to it, but a lot of hunters don't use that, even in arena that I've seen. So I again went to maximize damage in the previous turn. I still had a lot of other things to fall back on, a lot of other minions. So I have my useless enemy and a really good minion. Alright, so I've really filled up my board. I have a taunt. I'm in really great shape here. So you always want to look for the situations, what's the best trade-off? Alright, my 3-2 to eliminate a 3-3, yes, obviously. You don't want to use the guy that would have more attack and 3 less health die to something that's only a 3-3. So you always want to maximize the trade-offs. Alright, so there we go. The minion I played on the previous turn could attack twice as Wind Fury, so there's 8 damage. I have the guy that does so much damage himself. To rub it in, I do it this way. Give him that much damage, he could do it himself, and there we go. I mean, I hate when opponents do that. They could have just used what was out there to eliminate me. Why be a dick? Maybe they're going for one of their daily challenges to play minions. Maybe they're doing different things. Maybe they're just a jerk. But there we go. Alright, so going into our final game, unfortunately it's going to be a loss. I believe this is to a warrior, I want to say. Yeah. No matter what, warrior seems to be my most frustrating matchup. It used to be priest because I hate that they healed everything, but now it's definitely warrior. The first deck I ever made was an aggro deck with mage. I'm using a lot of cards with charge, doing spells, just focusing on attacking my opponent. The warrior is pretty much built that way, but it's twofold. They're built on doing a lot of quick damage with charge, different spells, doing a damage to their guy and giving him more attack. So a lot of brutal combos that way. But they also have their ability that gives them +2 armor, and they have a card that gives them +5 armor, and they draw a card. They have different minions that, and when they take damage or different things happen, they gain armor. One of my craziest... this is a horrible game. I didn't really have anything to do. I lose this really quickly. So instead I'm going to tell you a hopefully cool story. In ranked play the other day, I was using my constructed Shaman deck, which is a variation of a thing on Hearthstone. I changed like 10 of the cards that I didn't like, or legendaries I definitely don't like using. But I was facing a warrior, and I was down to 13 health. He had 29 health and 28 armor, or something crazy like that. 27 armor and 29 health. And so that he essentially had like 58, 50 whatever health, and I was able to beat him without losing another health. He actually quit the turn before I would have been able to win. It was the most satisfying game I ever had, and of course it was like the one time I wasn't streaming that day. So everyone's going to be like, oh, that's bullshit, that didn't happen. But it was incredible. I've lost some a lot of very, very frustrating games where my opponent is under 10 health and I know I'm going to win the next turn, and they pull some like miracle thing where they do 20 damage or something in one turn. So I've had it happen to me a lot, but I've never really had a great comeback win like that before, so it was awesome. So we're still in the early game here. It's actually kind of in my favor, but I have 2 hexes, which aren't ideal for early game. The 2 minions I have are good, but... Alright, so that is a very interesting move. Instead of silencing my guy with taunt, he silences his guy. And what does that do? It makes him able to attack. He's not, like, affected anymore. So that was actually a really smart move. And now at this point I was 5-2, so I'm going to start facing people that also have pretty good arena decks. Why was I hesitating so much to play that? Because warriors have tons of weapons. They have a 3-2, they have a 5-2, they have a 7-1. They have a card that's a 3-3 that also gives you a 2-2 weapon. So there's a lot of different weapons I would have liked to eliminate. But I didn't really have a choice. He has a couple minions out. I didn't have really any other plays. The good thing is the warrior doesn't have any spells that immediately eliminate a big enemy like that, but they do have a great card where it only costs 1 and it instantly kills a damaged minion. So say there is a 10-10 that's now a 10-9, it's dead for 1 cost. That's really awesome. So there we go. Execute. He even said I'm sorry, I think. So I'm already totally screwed here. I could hex a guy here and there, but it doesn't really stop the bleeding as much as I needed it to. Alright, so as we wrap up, I hope those tips are helpful. Of course, every arena is going to be different depending on your hero, depending on how lucky you get with the cards. And again, don't just pick, oh, I like this card the best of the 3. That might not mean you've made a good deck that's works well together. You still have to think, overall, does this become an aggro deck, control? Does it have a good mana curve? So how am I going to play this deck? What are my weak matchups? What do I have to do differently against this person? Alright, but let's look at my rewards here. So if you go 0-3, you only get 2 boxes. One is, again, the dust. One's a pack of cards. Always get a pack of cards at least. So there, I got a bad common. I got 50 gold, though, which is pretty good, and a pack of cards. So let's just look at the pack of cards. I think it's a bunch of crap. But there we go. Hope you enjoyed this very long video. And this will do it for episode 2 of my Be Better at Hearthstone series. Oh, I got 2 gold, so pretty cool. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Hope that helped, and I should be back with more videos soon.